Have you ever wondered why some men over 60 become more attractive the moment they stop chasing attention? It has nothing to do with money, looks, or luck. In today's video, you'll discover the powerful psychological shift that makes women notice them, and the final lesson could completely change the way you see confidence, relationships, and yourself. Stay with me until the end. There comes a moment in every man's life when he realizes that constantly chasing people is exhausting. For many men over 60, that moment doesn't arrive through a book or a motivational speech. It comes through experience. It comes after years of giving their time, energy, and emotions to people who didn't always appreciate them. It comes after learning that the harder you try to force someone to notice your worth, the less likely they are to see it. And strangely enough, it is at this point when a man finally stops chasing that something unexpected begins to happen. He becomes different, not colder, not arrogant, simply calmer, more grounded, more at peace with himself. This change isn't about playing games or pretending not to care. It is about discovering a deeper truth. Your value has never depended on someone else's attention. For decades, many men believe they must prove themselves through success, relationships, or constant effort. They think that if they keep giving more, sacrificing more, and trying harder, they will eventually receive the love and respect they desire. But life has a way of teaching lessons that no classroom ever could. The man over 60 has seen enough victories and disappointments to know that genuine relationships cannot be forced. Respect cannot be begged for. Affection cannot be chased into existence. The people who truly belong in your life will recognize your value without needing endless persuasion. This realization changes the way he walks into a room. His shoulders relax. His smile becomes genuine instead of calculated. He listens more than he speaks because he no longer feels the need to impress everyone around him. His confidence isn't loud. It doesn't demand attention. Instead, it quietly fills the space around him. Ironically, this is exactly what many people notice first. There is something naturally attractive about a person who is comfortable with who they are. Women, like everyone else, often recognize emotional stability. They notice the man who isn't constantly seeking approval because his actions suggest he already approves of himself. He enjoys conversations without expecting anything in return. He gives compliments without hidden motives. He walks away from situations that disturb his peace instead of fighting to stay where he isn't appreciated. That kind of emotional freedom is rare. As people grow older, they become increasingly aware of how precious time really is. A man over 60 understands that every day is valuable. He no longer wants to waste months or years chasing relationships that leave him feeling empty. Instead, he invests his energy in living well. He exercises because he wants to feel strong. He reads because he enjoys learning. He spends time with family and true friends because those connections bring genuine happiness. His life becomes full without depending on one person's attention. This shift creates a powerful effect. When someone appears fulfilled on their own, others naturally become curious. They wonder what gives him such quiet confidence. They notice that he isn't desperate to be the center of attention, yet people seem comfortable around him. He laughs easily, speaks honestly, and carries himself with the calm assurance that only experience can provide. More importantly, he no longer fears being alone. That may be the greatest transformation of all. Loneliness and solitude are not the same thing. Loneliness comes from believing something is missing. Solitude comes from knowing you are already enough. The man who embraces solitude discovers hobbies he had forgotten, dreams he had postponed, and passions that make every day meaningful. Instead of waiting for someone else to complete his life, he begins creating a life that already feels complete. This doesn't mean he closes his heart to love or companionship. Quite the opposite. His heart remains open, but his standards become healthier. He no longer accepts disrespect simply to avoid being alone. He no longer sacrifices his dignity for temporary attention. If someone enters his life, they are welcomed as a partner, not expected to become the source of his happiness. And that quiet independence changes everything. People are naturally drawn to those who radiate peace rather than neediness. They feel safe around someone who isn't trying to control, impress, or convince them. A man over 60 who stops chasing discovers that his greatest strength isn't found in pursuing others. It is found in pursuing a meaningful life. The surprising result is that when he finally stops running after attention, attention often begins finding its way to him. That is not because he has become someone new, but because he has finally become fully himself. One of the greatest gifts that comes with age is the ability to stop measuring your worth through the eyes of other people. For many men over 60, confidence no longer comes from having the nicest car, the biggest paycheck, or the loudest voice in the room. It comes from something much deeper. It comes from surviving life's hardest seasons and realizing that the strongest foundation is the one built within yourself. When a man reaches this stage, he no longer wakes up wondering who will notice him today. Instead, he asks himself a far more important question: how can I make today meaningful? That single shift changes everything. His energy is no longer spent chasing validation. It is invested in becoming healthier, wiser, kinder, and more fulfilled. Ironically, this quiet transformation often makes him far more noticeable than any desperate attempt to impress ever could. Confidence after 60 is different from confidence at 30. Younger confidence often depends on proving something. Older confidence comes from having nothing left to prove. It doesn't rush into every conversation trying to be the smartest person in the room. It doesn't interrupt others to gain attention. It doesn't exaggerate achievements to earn admiration. Instead, it listens carefully, speaks thoughtfully, and carries itself with quiet certainty. There is something incredibly powerful about a man who knows who he is. He doesn't panic when someone disagrees with him because he understands that different opinions don't diminish his value. He doesn't feel threatened by another person's success because he has learned that life isn't a competition. Every experience has taught him that peace is far more rewarding than constant comparison. Women often notice this emotional stability because it creates a sense of comfort. A man who is secure in himself doesn't create unnecessary drama. He doesn't constantly seek reassurance or demand attention. He respects boundaries because he respects his own. He understands that healthy relationships grow naturally and cannot be forced through pressure or manipulation. This emotional maturity becomes visible in everyday moments. He keeps his promises because integrity matters more than appearances. He treats strangers with kindness because character isn't reserved for special occasions. He remains calm during disagreements because he has learned that losing his temper rarely solves anything. These small habits speak louder than impressive words ever could. Another beautiful change happens when a man over 60 begins investing in himself rather than trying to impress others. He starts exercising not to compete with younger men, but because he wants to wake up feeling energetic. He chooses healthier meals because he values the years ahead. He reads books, explores new interests, and continues learning because growth doesn't end with retirement. His curiosity keeps his spirit alive. Instead of waiting for someone else to bring excitement into his life, he creates it himself. He travels to places he has always wanted to see. He spends afternoons gardening, fishing, painting, volunteering, or simply enjoying nature. His happiness no longer depends on receiving constant attention because he has built a life filled with purpose. That sense of fulfillment naturally shines through everything he does. There is also tremendous freedom in no longer fearing rejection. A confident man understands that not every connection is meant to last, and that's perfectly okay. He doesn't chase people who continually walk away. He doesn't beg for another chance where respect has disappeared. He knows that protecting his peace is not selfish, it is necessary. This mindset creates healthier relationships because they are based on choice rather than desperation. When he spends time with someone, it is because both people genuinely enjoy each other's company, not because he is trying to fill an emotional void. That authenticity is refreshing in a world where many people hide behind masks and insecurities. Perhaps the most inspiring lesson is this: confidence is not something you receive from others. It is something you build through daily choices. Every time a man honors his values, keeps his word, learns from failure, and continues moving forward despite life's disappointments, his confidence grows stronger. It becomes steady, dependable, and impossible to fake. By the time he reaches his 60s, the wisest man understands that attention is temporary, but self-respect lasts a lifetime. He no longer needs permission to feel valuable because he already knows his worth. And when a man carries himself with that kind of quiet confidence, people notice not because he demands their attention, but because genuine strength has a way of speaking without ever raising its voice. There is a quiet transformation that takes place when a man over 60 stops believing he must earn love by constantly giving more of himself. For much of his life, he may have thought that if he worked harder, sacrificed more, stayed available every moment, or always put other people's needs before his own, he would naturally become more valued. But experience teaches a different lesson. The people who truly appreciate you don't require you to lose yourself in order to keep them close. The moment a man understands this, he stops seeing himself as someone who must chase approval, and begins seeing himself as someone whose time, energy, and presence are valuable. This doesn't mean he becomes selfish or distant. In fact, he often becomes more generous than ever before. The difference is that his kindness now comes from abundance instead of desperation. He helps because it reflects his character, not because he expects something in return. He gives without secretly hoping it will make someone stay. He loves without trying to control. That kind of emotional freedom changes every relationship in his life. One of the greatest mistakes many people make is believing that attraction comes from constant effort to impress. They think they need to always say the perfect words, always be available, always agree, and always seek another person's approval. But genuine attraction grows where authenticity exists. People are naturally drawn to those who are comfortable being themselves. A man who has accepted both his strengths and his imperfections carries an honesty that cannot be manufactured. After 60, life has usually humbled him more than once. He has experienced success that didn't last and failures that felt overwhelming. He has celebrated victories and mourned painful losses. Those experiences remove the illusion that perfection is necessary. Instead of pretending to have all the answers, he becomes comfortable admitting when he doesn't know something. That humility doesn't make him weaker, it makes him deeply relatable. Women often notice this quality because emotional security is rare. A man who doesn't panic when a text message goes unanswered or become anxious when someone needs space demonstrates confidence without saying a single word. His peace isn't dependent on constant reassurance. He understands that every healthy relationship requires trust, patience, and respect for each other's individuality. Another important change is that he begins protecting his time. In younger years, he may have spent countless hours trying to convince people of his worth. Now he realizes that time is life's most valuable resource, Every morning becomes a reminder that the years ahead are precious. Instead of investing energy into one-sided relationships, he chooses activities and people who bring genuine joy. He spends afternoons with loyal friends, enjoys meaningful conversations, learns new skills, or simply appreciates the beauty of an ordinary day. His calendar reflects his priorities rather than his insecurities. As he creates a life filled with purpose, something remarkable happens. He becomes more interesting without trying to be. He has stories shaped by real experiences rather than borrowed opinions. He has wisdom earned through hardship rather than gathered from theories alone. His conversations become richer because they are filled with perspective, gratitude, and quiet understanding. People enjoy being around someone who has learned to appreciate life without constantly complaining about it. Most importantly, he stops fearing silence. He no longer feels pressured to fill every pause with unnecessary words or impress everyone with endless conversation. He understands that confidence is often revealed through calmness. A peaceful presence can be more memorable than a loud personality. The ability to sit comfortably in silence, to truly listen, and to make others feel heard becomes one of his greatest strengths. This shift also changes the way he approaches relationships. Instead of asking, "How can I make someone choose me?" he begins asking, "Does this relationship bring out the best in both of us?" That single question protects him from settling for less than he deserves. He understands that companionship should add joy to an already meaningful life, not become the only source of happiness. Perhaps the greatest lesson of all is realizing that becoming the prize has nothing to do with wealth, appearance, or social status. It has everything to do with character. It means living with integrity even when no one is watching. It means treating others with respect while refusing to accept disrespect in return. It means continuing to grow, to forgive, to laugh, and to remain curious about life regardless of age. By the time a man embraces these truths, he no longer feels the need to chase anyone. He walks through life with quiet confidence, knowing that his worth was never determined by who stayed or who left. His purpose is no longer to seek constant attention, but to live each day with gratitude, wisdom, and self-respect. Ironically, that is the very moment when others begin to see him differently. They are drawn not to someone trying to prove his value, but to a man who already knows it. And that kind of confidence is timeless because it comes from a heart that has finally learned the difference between seeking acceptance and living with genuine self-worth. The most powerful lesson a man over 60 can learn is that fulfillment is not something another person gives you. It is something you build within yourself. For years, many men spend their lives believing that happiness will arrive when they find the perfect relationship, receive enough recognition, or finally earn the approval they've been seeking. But time has a remarkable way of revealing the truth. Real peace never comes from chasing what is outside of you. It comes from discovering the strength, purpose, and gratitude that already exist within you. When a man reaches this stage of life, he begins to understand that every sunrise is a gift. The years behind him have taught lessons no textbook could ever explain. He has celebrated milestones, overcome disappointments, faced heartbreak, experienced success, and survived moments when he wondered if life would ever feel hopeful again. Those experiences have shaped him into someone stronger than he ever imagined. Instead of regretting every mistake, he begins appreciating the wisdom those mistakes provided. This change in perspective transforms the way he lives each day. He no longer wakes up asking who will notice him. Instead, he asks how he can make the most of the time he has been given. He starts exercising not because he is trying to compete with younger men, but because he wants the energy to enjoy his grandchildren, travel, or simply take long walks with confidence. He chooses healthier habits because he understands that taking care of himself is an act of self-respect, not vanity. He also rediscovers passions that may have been forgotten during the busy years of raising a family or building a career. Perhaps he begins gardening, learning photography, writing, woodworking, painting, volunteering, or exploring places he once dreamed of visiting. These activities are not about impressing anyone else. They are about reconnecting with the person he truly is. Every new experience reminds him that growth has no expiration date. Life doesn't stop offering opportunities simply because the calendar says 60 or 70. As his life becomes richer with purpose, people naturally begin noticing something different about him. His conversations are filled with curiosity rather than complaints. His laughter comes easily because he no longer feels the need to carry unnecessary emotional burdens. He smiles because he has learned to appreciate simple moments, a peaceful morning, a meaningful conversation, a beautiful sunset, or the sound of children laughing. This quiet gratitude becomes one of the most attractive qualities a person can possess. Women often recognize this kind of man because he brings calmness instead of chaos. He doesn't expect someone else to rescue him from loneliness because he has already built a meaningful life. He welcomes companionship, but he doesn't depend on it to feel complete. This creates healthier, stronger relationships because they are built on shared joy rather than emotional dependence. Another remarkable quality of emotionally mature men is their ability to let go without bitterness. They understand that not every relationship is meant to last forever. Some people enter our lives to teach lessons rather than remain for a lifetime. Instead of holding onto resentment, they choose forgiveness not because others always deserve it, but because carrying anger only steals their own peace. Forgiveness becomes a gift they give themselves. This doesn't mean they stop caring about others. On the contrary, they often become more compassionate than ever before. They know what disappointment feels like, so they offer encouragement. They know what failure feels like, so they avoid judging others too quickly. They know what loneliness feels like, so they make time for genuine friendships. Their kindness becomes intentional because they understand that everyone is carrying battles that may never be visible. Perhaps the greatest transformation is that they stop fearing the future. Instead of worrying about growing older, they begin embracing the opportunities each new season brings. They realize that aging is not about losing value, it is about gaining perspective. Wrinkles become reminders of countless smiles. Gray hair becomes evidence of years lived with courage. Every challenge survived becomes proof that resilience grows stronger with time. There is something deeply inspiring about a man who walks through life with quiet confidence, not because everything has been easy, but because he has learned that every setback carried a lesson. He no longer measures success by how many people admire him. He measures it by whether he can look in the mirror each morning with honesty, gratitude, and self-respect. And here lies the beautiful irony. The moment a man stops chasing approval, attention, or validation, he begins attracting something far more meaningful. People are drawn to his peace, his wisdom, and his authenticity. They feel comfortable around someone who isn't trying to prove his worth because true confidence never needs to announce itself. So if you are a man over 60, remember this. Your greatest years are not necessarily behind you. Some of the richest chapters of your life may still be waiting to unfold. Continue learning, continue growing, continue taking care of your body, protecting your peace, and living according to your values. Choose purpose over pressure, gratitude over regret, and self-respect over approval. Because in the end, the most magnetic man is not the one who spends his life chasing attention. He is the one who builds such a meaningful, joyful, and authentic life that attention naturally follows. And even if it never does, he has already discovered something far more valuable, a heart at peace, a mind free from unnecessary burdens, and a life that is complete from within. That is the kind of strength no age can diminish, and no circumstance can ever take away.